In today's adventure, I am again in historical Columbus, Georgia. This is a walking tour from the Coca-Cola Space Science Center through town to the amazing and beautiful Linwood Cemetery. I am Danny, and welcome to my channel, Danovator, where my experiences become your adventure. Remember to please subscribe and please hit that bell so you'll be notified when I release my next video. After being dropped off here at the museum, it was my intention to first go inside and explore. Unfortunately, today, which is a Saturday right after Christmas, the Science Center is closed. Located near the Space and Science Center is our first historical location. This is Dr. John S. Pemberton's cottage. Pemberton created the original formula for Coca-Cola in his pharmacy that once stood in Columbus. Along with his wife Anne and his son Charles, they lived in this home from 1855 to 1860. At that time, the house was originally located at 1017 3rd Avenue. We will visit their final resting place at the Linwood Cemetery at the end of today's adventure. With Pemberton's cottage just to the right, 3 houses down Broadway heading north is Dr. John Pemberton's country home, which he lived in from 1860 to 1869. This house was once located 4 miles north of Columbus and was moved here to be permanently protected in 1977. And in the median of Broadway is this monument. It is made of white marble with a Grecian urn on the top. It was erected in 1879 by the Ladies' Memorial Association. It was dedicated to the Columbus soldiers who fought in the war between the states. Well, let's continue on our adventure. I see a bunch of squirrels enjoying this Saturday morning. So here's 9th Street, and up ahead is the tourist area of Columbus, Georgia. That's the direction we came from, where the Pemberton houses were. It says there, Columbus Historic District. And as you can see, it's a little foggy today. And down 9th Street is this railroad track that's still being used. On the corner of 10th Avenue and Broadway is the River Center for the Performing Arts. And 1 block east of here is the Springer Opera House. The Springer Opera House was built by Francis Joseph Springer, a local grocery businessman, in 1871. On its centennial anniversary, Jimmy Carter, who at the time was the governor of Georgia, named this historic building the State Theater of Georgia. At this moment, I want to remember our 39th President of the United States, James Earl Carter Jr., who had just turned 100 years old before he died. And speaking of death, we will visit Francis Joseph Springer's gravesite, which is also at Linwood Cemetery. Now we're entering the part of town that a lot of tourists come to for great restaurants and unique little shops. Between 10th and 11th Street on Broadway is the remnants of local business-sponsored Christmas trees. Unlike this fountain, the local restaurants are in operation today. I can really smell that food, especially the pizza. These are some of the scenes along Broadway. of art that spread around downtown Columbus. Here was the old Bradley Theater. Heading west on 13th Street, which leads over into Alabama, is the Horace King Friendship Bridge. It was named after a famous African-American bridge engineer. On the corner of Broadway and 14th Street is this unique restaurant known as Country's on Broad. It was once an old bus station. The running greyhound is now replaced by a running pig. You can dine on that old Greyhound bus. In fact, you can drive the Greyhound bus. So the Linwood Cemetery is that way. But we're going to ease down here to the pedestrian bridge, and there's also another sign about Pemberton. We made it this far on our travels, so we may as well look over into the Chattahoochee River from the pedestrian bridge. At the northern end of Broadway, where it butts into 14th Street, is this placard titled The Formula. Columbus, Georgia honors Dr. John Stith Pemberton, a pharmacist who lived in the city before creating Coca-Cola. This placard also highlights his Civil War service, noting that he was wounded in the 1865 Battle of Columbus. To aid his recovery, he experimented with a tonic made from wine and cocoa leaf extracts, laying the foundation for his later invention of Coca-Cola. If you don't already know, the early formula of Coca-Cola indeed had cocaine in it. No wonder it is also referred to as Coke. There's also another placard worth reading just around this corner. Nestled next to the fountain at the TSYS building is where you can find that placard. Located near here once stood the home of Confederate Brigadier General Henry Louis Benning. He was once a justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia. He was known for his coolness and bravery and was called Old Rock by his troops. After the war, he practiced law in Columbus. And at the Linwood Cemetery, we will also pay our respects to him. Now we're going to start heading towards Linwood Boulevard. That's where the Linwood Cemetery is located. As I walk down 14th Street, I pass by a few amazing historical homes. Today is a dreary day, a perfect day for a cemetery tour. When I reached 6th Avenue, I turned left. To the right is some kind of old manufacturing company. Well, it says it used to be the Swift Manufacturing Company. It may seem that I'm crazy for walking all this way, but the sights at the historic Linwood Cemetery was well worth it. This historical burial ground was established in 1828. This is one of two areas where Civil War soldiers who died in the Columbus Hospital are buried. Located next to the entrance, underneath this magnificent statue, are the graves of Francis Joseph Springer, his wife Emily, and some of their children.
Now we're going to head down to the on-property chapel. And to get to the chapel, I'm going to walk the perimeter, which is next to Linwood.
This is the other burial site of the Confederate war soldiers. Located at the east tip of Linwood Cemetery, the Loomis Chapel, which is over 100 years old, can be used for weddings, funerals, and other private events. And located back up the hill is the gravesite of Noble Leslie Devotie. He was a Confederate chaplain during the Civil War. He co-founded the Sigma Alpha Epsilon, which was a national fraternity. On February 12, 1861, at the age of 23, he drowned after slipping into the river while boarding a steamer at Fort Morgan. He became the first Civil War casualty in the state of Alabama.
Columbus has a U.S. Army base. It's called Fort Moore. It used to be called Fort Benning, and it is named after the next person's grave we're fixing to visit.
This is the gravesite of Brigadier General Henry Louis Benning. After serving in the Civil War, he returned to his home in Georgia, where he lived until he died on July 10, 1875.
Now we're going to go look at a beautiful monument of a woman named Georgia. We're going to turn left on Magnolia Avenue, which leads back to the entrance.
This is the gravesite and monument for Georgia C. Mustian Davis, who was just 25 when she died. It shows a woman laying under a wreath of roses with a dove flying over. Now we're going to visit the gravesite of one of Columbus's founders.
He is buried just right over there.
Edwin Louis de Graffenried played a key role in laying out the plans for the town and securing its establishment in 1828. These plans included this cemetery to serve as the final resting place for its residents. And over in this direction is the last grave we will visit.
This is the gravesite of John Pemberton.
Dr. John Pemberton was a Mason and, as I mentioned earlier, the originator of Coca-Cola. In 1888, while living in Atlanta, Georgia, he sold his Coca-Cola patent to Asa Candler for $300. In today's money, that would have been worth about $9,000. As of January 2025, Coca-Cola Company's net worth was about $260 billion.
So now it's time that I go meet back up with my family, who's been doing a little after Christmas shopping here in Columbus. And I hope they got me an ice cold Coca-Cola. Well, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. And always remember, your adventure awaits with the Denovator. I'll see y'all the next time.